Well, good morning, good afternoon. I know it's spring forward day, so many of us may not be exactly sure what time it is yet and where we are, but this is NCK live, sort of. My schedule hasn't got to the place yet where I'm able to do it live, and frankly, I don't know that enough people will really listen live to make it a worthy endeavor to try to do this live each and every week. Let me know if you think you would watch live, if you'd like to watch live, if you'd be able to have live access to ask questions, to make statements, and possibly if you've got something very interesting to say to, come on down here in the bottom in a little box of your own picture so you can make your statement or ask your question. We could do that through the great technology that's available to us these days. But for now, we'll just have our coffee together, and we'll have our weekly talk. NCK Live, New Cosmic Knowledge Center, virtual center, doing what we can to talk to one another, to share with one another, to commune with one another. And what I want to talk about today, and please, before you go, subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this video, so we can help do more and get more people tuned in to what we're doing and what we're talking about here, because it is very, very important stuff, and it hasn't been heard ever since John, the Apostle John, and his followers left the earth. So some 2,000 years since this message has been talked about. And I often wonder when I look at my numbers on YouTube, and uh, this is one of those things you say because it's easy to say, but it seems like my numbers are artificially repressed. It just doesn't make sense to me. But hey, it is what it is. And some say, well, why are you worried about your numbers? Well, we want more and more people to hear this, because I'm convinced that if everyone heard this message, there would be a massive exodus from big time religion, because it just doesn't make sense. And it's very, very plain that we have been subject to slavery for some 2,000 years. And yesterday's broadcast was Paul was sick in the head. If you haven't looked at that, look at it. It's a very good one. And it's one thing to say Paul is sick in the head. It's another thing to prove that the Apostle Peter said that Paul was sick in the head, and we did that yesterday in very emphatic terms. But I think it's important that we go beyond just Paul was sick in the head, just beyond making that statement. And I made a rather strong statement at the end of yesterday's broadcast that if you have no problem following a psychopath, if you have no problem following someone that's sick in the head, believing a religion founded by someone that's sick in the head, believing a religion whose doctrines are based upon someone who is sick in the head, then you may be sick in the head. A strong statement, but as they used to say, if the shoe fits, put it on. You've been walking many miles in those shoes. How long are you going to walk in shoes that hurt your feet and destroy your spirit? And I especially want to ask you ladies that, but why was Paul sick in the head? Well, let's just talk about the things we know about Paul from the beginning. Number one, the first that we see of Paul, and this is in the book of Acts. I'm not going to give you the reference. I want you to do a little bit of work, a little bit of homework, a little bit of show a little bit of initiative on your own part. It says that Paul, when we first saw him, he came as Saul, obviously. Actually, it's not the first time we saw him. I think he was the rich young ruler that spoke to the Christ. I think he was the lawyer that spoke to the Christ. But at any rate, Saul of Tarsus came, and what was he doing? He was wreaking havoc on the church. That's in Acts, one of the earlier chapters, 1, 2, or 3, maybe 4. Give you some homework. And it said that he was wreaking havoc, that he was killing believers, that he was hauling them before the magistrates, that he was burning their houses, burning their synagogues, because at that time they were still mainly a meeting in synagogues. So basically, Paul was your original ISIS terrorist, only it was before they had Islam. And there's got to be a link between Christianity and Islam, maybe even Judaism and Islam as far as getting Islam started. I want to dive into that. And I've seen some, and some of it's tied to silly old Alberto Rivera, who never was really a person. They try to say, it's the Chick tracts, the Crusader comics. The real, there was a priest named Rivera who started the rapture and started futurism, things like that. There was no Alberto Rivera. He's a lie. He's a patsy. He's part of disinformation created by big-time religion to try to get us off track. But there's probably I hope that mute button was working. It doesn't always work. There's some misinformation, but we'll get into that at another time. So if you have any ideas on that, let me know. But he started off, he's a psychopathic mass murderer / serial killer. He went and murdered thousands of people, just like ISIS does, just like Christianity did in the Crusades. Killed a bunch of people. So Paul was demonstrably sick in the head because he killed a bunch of people for terroristic religious reasons. That's enough reason right there for me to say, yes, he was sick in the head. Oh, but he had a change and he became a believer. Oh, so he's out in the middle of the desert. Some entity speaks to him and says, I am Jesus. Do what I tell you to do. And he does it. Paul is sick in the head because he was a psychopathic, murdering rat bastard. Paul is sick in the head because he heard freaking voices and saw people that weren't there. If you read the accounts in Acts 9 and I think it's Acts 12, again, more research, there's 3 accounts of that appearance of that entity to Paul, which the Christ later said was Satan, the adversary, his adversary, aka the Lord. And if you look, weigh them all, nobody saw this thing but Paul. Nobody heard this thing but Paul. So he was sick in the head because he was a rampaging, murdering psychopath. He was sick in the head because he heard voices and saw things that weren't there. He was sick in the head because of the things he said about women. Now, this one always gets me. I know women. I'm very fond of women. Women are very smart. But I don't understand how you can be so damn stupid. I was an evangelist for over 20 years. An evangelist goes from church to church to church preaching. So I saw a lot of churches, a lot of different churches. I've seen churches on 5 continents, literally. And it's always about, if I had to guess, and I don't have any empirical numbers, but I bet I'm not far off the empirical numbers. If I had to guess, at any given time in a church, about 70% of the people in church are women. Ergo, 70% of the money given to churches is given by women. 70% of the money given to churches, Pauline churches, are given by women. And Paul said of women, and you can look this up yourself, I've shown you how to use Bible Hub, and you know how to use Google. Paul said that a woman has no right to have any authority over a man. None. Paul said that a woman should shut up in church and not say one word. So ladies, you're giving all your money to a guy that says you have no right to have any authority over a man. You're supposed to sit there and be pretty and smile and nod. You're giving money to a man and a system founded on a man that says that you should not say one freaking word in church. Nothing. Sit there, shut up, and look pretty. You're giving money to a man that says a woman should be a housewife only, a keeper at home. Look at that in the Greek. It means you should cook, you should clean. It means you should be in the sandwich. You should be in the kitchen making a sandwich, bitch. I hope that pisses you off. I hope you don't like that. I hope that upsets you. I hope you almost want to turn it off. Darty didn't say it. Paul said it. The guy you're giving money to said it. The guy that cares enough to tell you you won't give any money to. But basically, Paul said, women, you should be in the kitchen making sandwiches, bitches. And be quick about it and be quiet about it. And he also said this. He also said that it wasn't man that sinned, it was woman. So he blames this whole original sin thing on you, ladies. You. And he also said this. This is great. The way you can find it, look up, man was not made for the woman, but woman was made for the man. And if you look at that in the Greek, it means that the woman was created for the sexual pleasure and gratification of the man. How does that make you feel, ladies? Is that empowering? And this was International Women's Day last week. How do you feel about that? So Paul says that you were created for the sexual pleasure of the man. You were created to be in the kitchen making sandwiches, bitch. You were created to keep your mouth shut in church. You were created to always be under subjection, submission, and authority of men. And this is in Islam, this Christianity, Pauline Christianity. And he also said this, which is very interesting. It's, if you want to study, it's around the same place where he said a woman should, it wasn't made for, man wasn't made for woman, but woman for man. And that a woman should have her head covered or should have a marker on her, which means authority of a man, because of the angels. Study that in the Greek. What it means is that women are such fragile, uncontrollable sexual creatures that if they don't have a man's authority over them, they'll have sex with any kind of angels or any kind of spirit. This is what the guy thinks of you. This is what all the Roman Catholic churches are founded upon. This is what all the Roman Protestant churches are founded upon. This is what you're giving money to. I'd like to ask you something. I'd like to challenge you to do something. When you finally get tired of supporting a religion that is based upon this rat bastard, I would like for the first month that you leave that church and leave that religion, because I've helped show you the way, I'd like you to give to me the amount of money you gave to that church every month. Give it to me for 1 month as a thank you. And then on an ongoing basis, give me a percentage of what you used to give that church, whether it be all of it, half of it, a quarter of it, a tithe of it. Give it to somebody that's really helped you. And help me help other people just like you. So Paul was sick in the head because he was a psychopathic murderer. And Paul was also sick in the head because he hated women and started a system that has been enslaving women, especially for 2,000 years. We'll get more into this, but I'm out of time. If I've helped you get free, how about 1 month what you used to give to the church? How about an ongoing percentage of what you give to the church? Why do I want it? Because I want to help you and others like you learn how to unindoctrinate yourselves.